All right, so I think it's important to talk about suicide when we're talking about mood disorders and depression. I mean, suicide is really obviously a very serious, it's kind of a scary thing, especially if you're in the mental health field and you're a clinician and or you're just someone and you know someone who's like suicidal. It can be very scary thinking about, what if they die on my watch or something like that. Um, so I think it's good to talk about it. I want to talk about just for a minute um, about suicide. And the first thing I want to talk about is my clinical understanding of why people attempt or commit suicide. So one thing is that I think generally when people are really very serious about suicide, they generally are looking at suicide as a solution to a problem. That something in their life is basically so hopeless, so bleak that, and they're in so much pain about it usually, that ending their life is really the best solution to this problem. Sometimes there's even financial stuff to that, like I messed up real bad, and like with my like a person who has a family might think this, I messed up real bad. I cheated on my wife or whatever, and I'm a terrible father, and so my family would really be better off with just the life insurance money. Um, Although I think usually if you do commit suicide, you don't get the life insurance money. So maybe they want to make it look like an accident or something. I don't know. But yeah, probably shouldn't say that in the video. Point being, they view it as a solution to the problem. That point stands. So that's sort of how I understand suicide. Sometimes in people when people think about suicide, there's different functions that serves. So one can be like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to solve the problem. I'm going to end my life, and that's one way. Another way is like it can serve a function in the moment, like just thinking about, man, if I just you might not even be that serious about it, but just thinking, man, I'm in so much pain right now. This sucks so bad. I don't see it getting better. If I did just kill myself, wouldn't that be great? To not have this struggle and to think about suicide can actually be sort of like a fantasy that makes you feel better in the moment. It helps you, the weight of this problem that you have or whatever, or difficult situation that you're in your life is sort of lifted as you fantasize about what would it be like if I just didn't wake up or whatever. So those are some of the functions that suicide can play, is either a solution to a problem or even just kind of like almost like a distraction or something that makes you not feel as terrible as you just do think about it, even if you're not particularly serious about it. So then the question becomes, if you know someone who is suicidal, what should you do? And your textbook has a pretty good list of like 10 things that you can do. And so you should check out that list, and that's good. At the same time, if all of a sudden you're talking to your friend or whatever and they say they're suicidal, and it's like, you might not want to be like, all right, stay right there. I'm going to go, this is like 2 years from now. I'm going to go get my book that I had in this psych disorders class I took 2 years ago. There's a list of 10 things I have to keep in mind. You're probably not going to do that. You're not going to remember all 10 things, probably. So I'm going to try to give you 1 to 2 things to keep in mind, and maybe you'll remember these. When I was a trainee in my last year of graduate school, I had to do a full-time clinical internship at McLean Hospital, and this was one of the best pieces of advice that I got from a seasoned clinician on suicide assessing and what to do about it. So actually, no, I'm going to cut that out. I'll say it a different way. The main thing I think you want to do is just let the person know that you care about them. So like let them know how scary that sounds to you, that they would do that, and you really don't want them to die. You want them to be safe. Like you want to help them. Like letting them know that you care about them is the main thing that I think you should do. When people are depressed, and especially when they're suicidal. Generally, there's one of two things going on, and oftentimes, if they're suicidal, really seriously suicidal, both of these things might be going on. There's this problem with work or love. So, work and love are two very fundamental things that people need to feel like they are having a good life. If you don't have some sort of work that you feel good about, it doesn't have to be like a job. It could be your job, but it doesn't have to be a job. It could be like this little hobby that you do when you get home from your job, or it could be like taking care of an elderly relative and you don't get paid for it, but it's like something that you do that you find meaningful, some sort of work that you find to be meaningful, feel like you're contributing. You need that. You need to feel like you're doing okay with that. The other is love, and that would be, some sort of meaningful relationship in your life. It could be a spouse, it could be a parent, it could be a child, it could be a church community with multiple people that you feel connected to. But you need some kind of work and you need some kind of love. I think those are two good things to shoot for to have a happy life. And when people are depressed, they generally feel one of two things, one of those is off. They feel like they're either unlovable, or they feel like they're incapable. So they can't do the work thing, or they can't do the love thing. And they really believe that, and that's part of the reason that they're depressed. When people are suicidal, they really, really believe that. And sometimes they believe both of those things, and they feel really hopeless. So getting back to what to do if your friend is suicidal or whatever, you showing that you really care about them, like just showing the emotion that you feel terrified that they say that, letting them know, putting your hand on their back like you would a little child who's crying, just showing that you care for them is going to help to beat down the unlovable thing. Like they're going to feel loved by that. And that's really good. That's really good for them. The other thing is just talking with them. So every time someone is seriously suicidal to the point where like they've attempted suicide or they're going to, there is a cognitive distortion going on, I guarantee you. So what's a cognitive distortion? It's this thought or belief that's a little bit off from reality. It's not psychosis per se, but it's like a thought that's basically too negative or something like that, darker than like the average person would have. And it's a little inaccurate. So when people are really suicidal, they tend to have a little bit of arrogance to them, not intentionally, but like they really think they can see the future. They know everything that's going to happen and it's never going to get better. But guess what? No one knows what's going to happen in the future. There's always way more uncertainty than people have when they're really suicidal. So just you talking to them about what do you think is going to happen here? Why do you want to kill yourself? It's going to help. Like you, and if as long as you're not suicidal too, and in that really dark place, having that conversation with quote unquote a normal person who's not in the depths of darkness, believing with certainty that they know what's going to happen in the future, the cognitive distortion of like thinking you have a crystal ball and can predict the future and the future is going to be terrible. Your normal perspective is going to be really good to combat that darkness, and it might show them a little bit of light in that dark room that they're in. So just be yourself and talk to the person about whatever if they want to talk about it. You can't force them to, but show that they care and just be yourself and talk stuff through with them. I think those are two really good things to do. Getting help for them and stuff if they need it is good too, and that's kind of all I'll say for now, other than you can look at your textbook for the other stuff too.